Hello, and my name is Felicia, and I was born and raised in DeWitt, Iowa. I'm the youngest of three children and only daughter of my parents. My parents are hardworking and have always supported their children. After high school, I started a community college, and it was that time I realized how much I enjoyed giving back to my community and helping others. I had received my bachelor's degree and then went on to get my master's. And many of my friends were in serious relationships and getting engaged or married, and I turned to online dating during this time, and it ended with me becoming a survivor of sex trafficking. In late July of 2016, I started talking to a guy who seemed too good to be true. The guy I started talking to said that his name was Garrett. He did so many things to make me feel seen and cared for. It was something I had never experienced before. The first day we had met, we had a wonderful conversation and had a lot in common. Garrett had told me that he had mentored at-risk youth, which was similar to a past job of mine. He had an internship at a local factory and he was finishing college. We had went on a few great dates together, and after I had feelings for him, he began to start getting aggressive and abusive towards me. And he would manipulate me to give him money and even threatened me. He had lied to me and ended up getting me in a bad financial situation because of helping him. Later in our relationship, Garrett was arrested in Cook County, Illinois on a drug charge. During that time, I found out that his name was really Ryan. Ryan had asked me to be his girlfriend over the phone. I had never been asked to be in a relationship before, and he had promised that he was going to change. He assured me that he wanted to change his way of life. He wanted to get a good job. He wanted to find a place to live and start a family. At the time, everything seemed like a fairy tale. Now I know he was just telling me what I wanted to hear. For the first time in my life, I had a serious boyfriend, and I felt like everything was going to work out. In October, Ryan was released from prison in Illinois, and he had to wait in a county jail to be extradited back to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He was seen as a flight risk, and I was worried if he got out and I didn't do what he said, he would hurt me. He had made me meet with one of his ex-girlfriends who was still helping him with money. A few weeks later, Ryan and his ex-girlfriend Kayla were talking on the phone and added me to their phone call. Ryan asked Kayla if I was ready to join their team, and she replied, "Can you trust her?" Well, Ryan said, "Of course, she's my girl." I was instructed to go to Kayla's apartment after work the next night. He said she would explain everything when I arrived. The next day, I arrived at Kayla's as instructed. I was shocked to learn she was having sex for money for Ryan and that he had taught her how to do it. At the time, I had no idea what was happening was called human trafficking. Ryan had called while I was at Kayla's to make sure that I had shown up on time and wasn't complaining about being there. He had given Kayla permission to punish me if I wasn't a good team member. She had permission to slap me, spit in my face, or even call the police and tell them that I had broken into her apartment if I didn't follow the directions. Kayla showed me how she posted a sex ad online using the website Backpage. She explained to me what to do if a guy would send her a text message or phone call. As a team member, I had two jobs until I learned enough to do it myself. The first job was to drive Kayla to her out calls as her car was impounded, and the second job was to help her set up appointments. I didn't do so great at the second job, so she didn't have me do it for long. The money that we made was Ryan's, and he reminded us that many times. Kayla and I were even instructed to ask for permission to go get food if we were hungry. I do remember one time I just made the decision to buy the fast food for us, and that didn't end up so well. I got yelled at from Ryan, and he even told Kayla to watch me closer so I didn't pull a stunt like that again. I felt so much anxiety after that moment that I was always being watched. For the next few months, my life consisted of working my day job and helping Kayla at night. I wasn't able to get away from it, and I was being blackmailed by Ryan because he had a video and some nude pictures of me and threatened to send them to my mom, dad, and even my boss. By Valentine's Day 2018, Ryan told me it was now my turn to step up and that my training was officially over. I was to get a hotel room and post an ad and make the team money. I had posted an ad online and waited for my first call. Ryan was on the speakerphone and would tell me how much to charge and what to do when a call would come. When a man would come to the door, I would to put the phone on speakerphone and hide it either by the pillow or side table as Ryan would listen to each call. I don't remember the exact amount I made that weekend, but I do remember each time I would make $300, I was to lock it in my car. I had learned if Ryan was happy, I wouldn't get hurt. His happiness was all that mattered during this time. Once, when Ryan called me, I used every ounce of strength I had and told him I didn't want to be part of his team anymore. I expressed how ashamed and dirty I'd felt. I even said I felt so bad that I wanted to kill myself. He replied, "Good deal." And he said, "Don't take the easy way out and take a bunch of pills, but shoot yourself in the face." I was shocked he would even say that to me if he cared for me so much. He ended the conversation saying that he'd even have Kayla pee on my grave. After that conversation, I just sat there and felt numb. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't even cry. I knew my life had just taken a big turn. 2 days later, Ryan ordered Kayla to send the pictures of sexual nature to my family. I felt humiliated, angry, and sad. I assured my parents nothing like that would ever happen again, and to save me from further humiliation, they decided not to go to the police. A few days later after that, I had contacted Kayla using one of those free texting apps because I had some things at our house I needed. Once when I was talking to Kayla, she put Ryan on the phone through three-way calling. He apologized to me and told me how much he appreciated me and loved me, and I was one of the best things to happen to him in his life. And he also said how smart and successful I was, and he promised to change. He used my vulnerabilities against me, and I made the terrible decision to give him my new number. That is a decision that still makes me cringe to this day. Early April of 2018, Ryan was finally released from jail. The physical and sexual abuse began almost immediately after he was released. Once, Ryan had made an ad online for me, and I quickly had a client call. Apparently, according to Ryan, I didn't answer the phone the right way, and he kicked me in the face with his boot. Once, after I refused to do it, Ryan had hit me so hard in the face I had lost hearing in my right ear for a while, and I still have problems with that ear to this day. Kayla and I were demanded by Ryan to call him Big Daddy Chief or Chief, and if we didn't, we'd always get punished. Ryan began spending money as if he was a millionaire. He loved having the power and control over us. He used guns and belts, and he would hurt us and make us take drugs and alcohol so he could continue to control us easier. In late June of 2018, Ryan began creating a number of dating profiles, and he had met a girl through one of the apps. That was when he introduced us to Ellie. Kayla and I had asked Ryan how old Ellie was, and he said, "She's 18, I'm not messing around with any of that underage stuff." Very soon, Ellie was spending a lot of time with Kayla and Ryan as I was busy working my day job and wasn't around as much. I worked as much as I could so I didn't have to be around the lifestyle anymore. But the bad thing about working so much is I was required to give Ryan more money. One afternoon, Ryan said how Ellie was ready to join the team. I knew what that meant. They were about to do the same thing they did to me, to her. Ryan had took some pictures and made a post for Ellie online. Ryan would treat all of us girls badly, and he was abusive to us all. By July of 2018, I had tried to tell Ryan I didn't want to be part of his life or team anymore. I didn't want to live the lifestyle that he was living. I reminded him of all the dreams and plans we had made before. The next few weeks, I felt like Ryan's captive. That was the start of the time he took me against my will across state lines. During this whole time, I was unable to go anywhere by myself. Even if I were to use the restroom, someone would be standing by the door. Ryan would hold the phone up to my face and tell me what to say. He would have me call my family and asked for money. My family was being told by law enforcement not to give me money, and they said that I had just run away with my boyfriend and I'd come back when I wanted to. But the thing was, I hadn't wanted to go in the first place. I begged and pleaded to Ryan to let me go home, but he told me that he would have to let my face heal from my injuries before, and he would let me go home when he was ready for me to. Everything continued to be by his decision, and he was the one in control of all of us. In early August of 2018, Ryan announced it was time to leave on a trip that he had planned. I began to cry and ask for him to let me go home. I told him I would do anything to go home to my family. Ryan responded it wouldn't be right if I were to be able to go home and my team was out struggling. The four of us had traveled to Nashville, Tennessee. He would beat us with belts, hangers, phone cords. He would tell us what we had to do, or else we would be beaten worse. Next, we had gone to Atlanta, Georgia. And while in Atlanta, we had gotten in a car accident. Before the cops arrived, Ryan had made this story up and gave another fake name that we were to follow when we spoke to the cops. The night of the car accident, the three of us girls went to the emergency room. Kayla and I were sitting next to each other in the waiting room. She had my car keys and said that we should just leave, get in the car and go. But I couldn't do that and leave Ellie alone. I said my guilt would eat me alive, knowing that if we left Ellie alone, because Ryan would take out his anger on her. So we agreed to wait and talk to Ellie and leave when Ryan was in the shower or asleep. Well, before that happened, Kayla got away and turned herself into the psych ward. The entire time I was in the hospital, Ryan was sitting next to me, and I wasn't able to say anything to the nurses or doctors. The next morning, Ryan had told Ellie and I that he was ready for our next destination. We ended up in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Once in Myrtle Beach, Ryan had set up a call for Ellie, and she was to meet the client in a Walmart parking lot. When Ellie was meeting with her client, Ryan had me call my boss. He held the phone up to my face and instructed me on what to say. And he had told me to ask my boss why I didn't get paid that day. My boss responded, because you haven't been at work. My boss was then able to inform my mom that she could hear a man telling me what to say in the background, and my mom took that information to our local law enforcement. It had taken my mom almost 3 weeks for the law enforcement to help her. Ryan had become extremely angry that I wasn't getting a paycheck. When Ellie returned to the car, Ryan had begun to take his anger out on us. I was the most terrified I have ever been at Ryan. I was scared for our lives more than ever before. I wanted to do more, but I didn't know what to do. He took his belt and hit me in the back of the head, and immediately I felt a gush of blood. When Ryan noticed, he told me to pull over, and he got in the driver's seat. When we returned to the hotel, Ryan instructed Ellie and I to walk straight to our room with our heads down and not to speak to anyone. The rest of the day, I was in pain and even had to beg for some ibuprofen. Ryan then said that we were getting ready to go home tomorrow on our way back to Iowa. It was the most hopeful news I had heard in weeks. I was so ready to go home. Ryan had then returned from a short walk and said that he had saw a lot of police in the area. After that, he made Ellie and I go clean out the car for our trip back home. As we were walking to the car, there was a couple of policemen who motioned for me and Ellie to go to the lobby, and they asked if we were okay. We both responded yes, but the officer noticed some distress on my face, so he separated us. For the first time in 3 weeks, I felt safe and was finally away from Ryan's eyes. I told the officer everything. I was cooperative with law enforcement from the start. It was during this time that I found out the truth that Ellie was only 16 years old. Ellie and I were then taken to the police station to be interviewed by a detective. We were participating in a field interview, so I had no idea that the information I was giving would later be used in an indictment against me. I had never been in trouble before, Plus, I was a victim of Ryan's too, so I didn't think anything of it. After the interviews, I was transported back to the hotel and Ellie was taken to Child Protective Services. I was finally safe and knew my parents would be on their way to get me the next day. And really, that's all that mattered to me. The next day, my parents and a family friend arrived to take me home. My homecoming was short-lived. On August 21st, 2018, I found out I had a warrant for my arrest out in South Carolina. Along with my parents' support, I had turned myself into our local police department. I waited for extradition to South Carolina at my county jail. During my time sitting in county jail, a family friend had told my family about Breaking Traffik, an anti-trafficking program provided by Family Resources. Within 24 hours, someone had met with me and began giving me support. When I finally arrived to South Carolina, I was officially charged with human trafficking. After 10 days, my family was able to return me home back to Iowa. On October 26, 2018, I had a preliminary hearing which my lawyer attended on my behalf, and my case was dropped for no probable cause. I was thrilled because now I could focus on my recovery and healing of the trauma I had experienced. During this time in my life, I was still receiving services with Breaking Traffik, and I also had begun therapy and attending a weekly trauma survivor support group. Family Resources was a huge support in my healing process. Shockingly, in January of 2019, I was federally indicted. I was being charged on 3 counts involving transportation of a minor for criminal sexual intent, and I was named a co-defendant with my ex Ryan. The support I received from Family Resources was tremendous during this time. They were with me every step of the way during my court proceedings. I was having a difficult time adjusting to everything and had some serious health problems that resulted in surgery. Along with the support from Breaking Traffik and my family, we tried to fight the justice system as I was a trafficking survivor. But I did end up being charged federally and served time in a federal medical facility. Even though I was away from Breaking Traffik, they continued to support me and even provided services to my mother. In October of 2021, upon my release, I began meeting with my Breaking Traffik advocate, and we continued to fight for my justice to clear my record. They have helped educate me on the grooming process of trafficking and abuse, which helps with the shame and guilt that I have dealt with. Through a referral, I also received therapy services through Family Resources, which is another positive support during my recovery. I'm slowly becoming the positive and lover of life Felicia I was before I met my ex. My family and I are beyond grateful for the services I received. It brings hope that the survivors who are unfairly prosecuted will receive the justice they deserve.